Hi everyone, so welcome back. We are now going to actually go into the Flutter workspace. Last time, just to recap, we have already set up our environment and we have set up all the devices where we can run our Flutter project. So we did an iPhone, we did an Android simulator, we did Chrome for web, and we did macOS. So we did 4 different platforms and devices last time, all virtually, nothing, no physical device used. And just to show you, this is the device that we had installed on last time for the iPhone 15, and this is our app. And we have a counter app, the sample app that we had made, which is called my new app, right? So now today we are going to go into the Flutter workspace, which involves 4 key things. So one is our code editor, or integrated development environment, or IDE as it is called. So we are going to use Visual Studio Code, or VS Code, right? For that, some people might prefer to use Android Studio for this, which you can actually very well do. But we are going to focus on Visual Studio Code for this particular series of tutorials, right? The second part is to install and configure extensions in VS Code. So I've already installed these extensions, and I'll point out the ones that are typically installed for Flutter and Dart programming. Then we'll go over the Flutter project structure. What are the different folders that are there, how are they arranged, and some of the major files in Flutter, right? So let's get started with Visual Studio Code. So to launch Visual Studio Code, you just press Command Spacebar and type VS Code. So yeah, so this is there, right? And you are greeted with Visual Studio Code, a welcome tab over here. And for the first time when you open it, you might get some configuration options and etc. And you can actually go through them. But over here we have a basic Visual Studio Code. So now we can open our um, app that we created last time, and that's basically the my new app that we created. So for that, you can actually click on open and then press Command Shift G. So you'll get a pop-up like this. Add the development directory, it's already added for me. I press enter, I go to projects and I select the my new app folder and I click on open. So over here you can see, I have the my new app loaded over here. Now let's start with the Visual Studio Code overview that we had to do, right? So on the left, you can see some options over here. So the first one is an explorer. So as the name suggests, this is basically an explorer for your project directory. The root directory is basically my new app. So whenever you are come up with a line that place this file in the root directory of your project, it is this directory that you place it in, right? Then you have a search option over here in Visual Studio Code, which is basically you can search and replace for text over here. So let's say I type main, and I have a metadata file and a pubspec.log file and so many other files, and in the main.dart file where it actually finds this, and you can then open that particular file like this, right? And you can also replace text, of course, so we can do that as well, right? Then we have source control. So source control is super important because it helps you manage multiple people working on a single project. It helps you manage individual features being developed on their own and then being added into a main big application, right? And it helps you with versioning and backups of your code. So if something goes wrong, you can always revert to an older version and recompile your app, redeploy it, and start using that. So this we will start using whenever we get to that. For now, we'll continue with the VS Code overview. Then you have a run and debug section. You have extensions. So extensions, as you can see, I've installed 2 of them, Dart and Flutter, and you can just search for these extensions over here. So these extensions basically help you to highlight syntax, code completions, etc. So I'm going to install the Dart extension, and once you click on it, you'll see it's by dartcode.org, and it's Dart language support and debugger for Visual Studio Code. So if you have not installed it, there'll be an option to install it over here, and you can click the same. The same thing you can do with Flutter. You type Flutter and you'll get the extension over here, dartcode.org, Flutter support and debugger for Visual Studio Code, and you can install this as well, right? You have a testing section over here. We can actually do some tests based on the tests that you have set up, and you have a Flutter extension over here, which is actually help you with some of the Flutter specific things, like the device is connected, and some of the dev tools. So we'll come to the details of these sections later, right? So that is mostly about Visual Studio Code, right? An overview for that. And now as we open the files, we'll see the editor section and so on. But let's go on to the next two parts, which is the Flutter project structure and the major files in Flutter. So to open a file, we can go to Explorer over here, right? And we can click on lib and we can click on main.dart. So this is one of the files inside the Flutter project structure. Main.dart is the entry point for your project, right? And it's located in a directory called the lib directory, and this is going to be the main directory which you'll be working in, right? The lib directory will also store all other code for your app. So for example, you might have some data files, you might have some models, you might have state management, so which we'll come to later, right? So this app might use actions, middlewares, reducers, API calls, networking, etc. Most of it, or rather all of it almost, goes inside this lib directory, and then you create subdirectories to hold all this logic. Right now, this lib directory only has a main.dart file, which is the entry point for your app, and this just calls run app, which basically starts the app for you. All right. Then as we go ahead, we have platform specific directories. So you can see an iOS directory over here, you have an Android directory over here. This will have platform specific code, in case you want to make some edits to the native code on Android or iOS, you're going to go to these directories and make those changes. We should see other directories for macOS over here and for web over here as well. So these are two other platform specific directories that are there. There's also a Linux directory over here, right? So all of these are platform specific directories. Then you have a build directory. So this is a system generated directory. You wouldn't have to work a lot with this directory, right? The system, whenever you make some builds, it will use these directories to save some build output for your code. Then you have the pubspec.yml file. So this is the file where we handle all our dependencies. So as you can see, it says this is your app name and an app description, right? And you have a section over here which is dependencies, and whenever you want to add a new, let's say, plugin or dependency for doing something special, like for example, if you want to add a plugin for web connections to a backend server through some WebSockets or something, you might need a dependency for that helps you achieve that in a simple way, and then you'll add this over here. If you need to add, let's say, some plugin like for looking at maps in your application or something else, right? Or if you want to connect to a backend as a service database like Firebase databases and so on, you'll add dependencies over here to connect with that. And once you add these dependencies, VS Code on its own is going to detect a change, and it's going to install or download the code for those dependencies, and then you'll be able to use all the services from those dependencies. Apart from that, we have this readme.md file. So this is basically describing your project or app. You can write a description about your app and explain what the app is about over here. It's good to do some documentation, and you can do all that over here. So let's see if we have some other directories that we would wish to discuss about. Okay, so there is this test directory that we have actually missed out. So this directory is basically used for writing unit tests. So unit tests are important to test your apps and check whatever you have coded in, whatever you expect to see on screen is actually available on screen or not. And so this directory is used to hold all those tests that you have written. Right now in the default app, there's just one widget test.dart, and this is testing. This is a counter increment smoke test, right? And it says pump widget my app. So that's basically going to build our app and trigger a frame. Then we'll verify that we find the text 0. This basically verifies that our counter starts at 0, but we should not be able to find 1. Then we tap the plus icon and trigger a frame. So it will basically ask the tester to tap the plus icon, right? And it's going to locate that icon by using find.by icon. And then it expects that the text 0 should not be there and the text 1 should exist. So this is a basic unit test. You can run this, and if this succeeds, it means that at least your app opens with a 0 value counter, and when you click the plus button, it goes on to show a 1. All right, so that actually covers the entire Flutter project structure. Now let's go and look a little bit at main.dart, right? So as we discussed, this is the entry point for your app. you have an import statement which imports material over there, right? So material is basically a material design concept from Google, and it's used a lot in Flutter. So we import that, right? And I'm sorry, I clicked on debug over there. Then you have a my app class. So this is a widget. It's essentially a stateless widget over here, and your run app function is running this particular widget for your app over here. We will cover what are stateless widgets, stateful widgets later on, but essentially right now our app is just represented by this class, which is a widget, and this class defines how to build the app inside this build function. So it says over here that for building the app, one needs to return a material app. So again, material app is something related to material design, and over there it provides a title called Flutter demo. It provides a theme for it to use, right, with a color scheme right over here, and it uses material design 3, which is true, so it means it's using the version 3 for material design. And then it provides a home screen. So it says, okay, this is the app that we want to run, and the home screen for the app should be my homepage with the title Flutter demo homepage. So this is again another widget. This time is a stateful widget, and if you see the my homepage widget, you'll see that it has another build method which is building that particular page, which has an app bar, a body, a floating action button, and so on, right? So if we actually go on to our app, we can actually locate all these things. So this is the floating action button, this is a widget, right? This is the app bar, and this entire white section is the body, right? And if you see, you can actually check that the title that we have provided to our homepage is Flutter demo homepage, which you can see over here, right? So this is a very basic application that we have just touched on, right? And the details around the code, etc., we'll actually cover on in a later section. Thanks for watching. Please do give the video a like and do subscribe to my channel. See you next time.